Steel bottle, steel bottle. Boston Texas, steel bottle, steel bottle. Oh yeah! Steel bottle, steel bottle. Boston Texas, steel bottle, steel bottle. Banana and cheese.
Beat Rob, Jim, Packaging King.
Steel bottle, steel bottle.
The Caesar on the court to get another ring.
Steel bottle, steel bottle.
Everybody in the chat now sing.
Steel bottle, steel bottle. Steel bottle, steel bottle. Boston Texas, steel bottle, steel bottle. Oh yeah! Shut your ass up,
Daddy's always had one in here.
What a hilarious ending, man. We'll get to that. We'll get to the hilarious ending. First, I'm Jake King from The Athletic, here with Brian Robb from MassLive.com. And I promise we will talk about the fourth quarter, the collapse, all the turnovers, the 22 turnovers after halftime, which you don't really see too often in an NBA game, even if it's preseason. But let's start with the earlier stuff, because that was when the rotation guys were playing, and that's when we actually picked up some stuff that might be useful to the real Celtics. Instead of the turnovers by Baylor Shireman as a point guard and Amari Williams and RJ Lewis, Anfernee Simons played tonight, and Chris Boucher was really freaking good, and Josh Minot was really good yet again. So we'll talk about all that stuff. It was Simons' debut, so let's start there. I thought for a while, like, he just didn't really put an imprint on the game. The first unit kind of started pretty relaxed for the first 5 minutes or so, and took the Celtics a while to wake up. And I felt like Simons didn't really get engaged for a while, but still seemed like kind of just a good example of how gifted a scorer he is, because at the end of the day, you look up, he had 18 points on 13 shots. He hit a lefty layup that was like so silky smooth. He hit a pull-up like floater and one that was just stupidly difficult shot. He hit a sort of late shot clock, like turnaround fadeaway in somebody's mug. And even though I don't think it was his best game at all, you look up at the end of the day, he had super efficient 18, and that's just kind of how he is.
Yeah, it was. Like I said, I think it signifies that it's like you didn't know how he got to 18 points there looking at the end of the night. And what he had, like, I think 3 fouls in the first 5-6 minutes.
A lot of fouls. Right away.
So it was tough sledding early on, not just for him, but a lot of the offense. But yeah, some tough shots, some defensive struggles, but then he kind of got comfortable as things got along. And yeah, it's just that type of shot making we saw from him. That is going to be a big deal for this team this year, because as we saw, when offense is going to be tough to come by, and when you're facing aggressive defensive team like the Raptors, you're going to need guys that can pull shots, out of their ass, if you will. And he's one of these guys. And how he exactly fits into the flow of this team, like, that remains to be seen. But he's a bucket getter, and we kind of saw a little bit of that tonight.
Yeah, and it was interesting backcourt with him and Peyton Pritchard. Obviously, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, and Sam Hauser all sat out with rest in this one. So Celtics were again like very limited with playmaking. They had Ron Harper Jr. play in the first quarter, which was notable, even though he didn't really do too much with that appearance. Like, the fact that Ron Harper Jr. was appearing early in the game, like, the alarms should be going off in people's heads. Like, he's playing well in training camp. He's earned a shot that early in the game.
Ahead of all the two-way guys. Far ahead of all the two-way guys.
Yeah, and I believe that Ron Harper Jr. has a chance to win a two-way spot.
I was going to just look up right now if he's still eligible for a two-way.
He is
And
eligible
he
for
is.
one, yes.
Yes. Yep. This would be his fourth season. So, yeah, that's I mean, we'll get to the fourth quarter. We will, but Ron Harper Jr., I believe, was not in the court for a lot of those disaster minutes. Probably for a reason. And that, if anything, that might have bodes well for his candidacy for one of those slots.
Yeah, so RJ Lewis signed a two-way deal with Utah before getting traded to Boston. And so the Celtics technically have 3 two-way slots already filled right now. 2 of those guys were guys that they drafted, but I do think that Ron Harper is potentially playing himself into a two-way. That is the word right now. So that's a development. However, like more pressing to the Celtics' current situation, because two-way is like he'll spend most of his time in Maine.
Yeah.
Chris Boucher has been really impactful over these first 2 games. He did everything tonight. He had, I believe it was 17 points in the first half. He comes out in the third quarter and then instantly gets a steal, instantly blocks a three-pointer, and draws a charge with he probably flopped a little bit. He acted like he got an elbow to the face and went down real hard. But that was all in the first minute 26 of the third quarter. He was on the offensive glass. He was making threes. Chris Boucher, he hit an and one fadeaway toward the end of the shot clock. Chris Boucher was really, really doing some things out there. And the way that he's played, the energy that he's brought, it sort of fits the way that the Celtics want to play. And I think he's really stating a case for a significant role when the regular season begins.
Without a doubt. I mean, this was, your classic preseason revenge game, Jay. I mean, Chris just coming in after being tossed to the side by the Raptors. But no, this is clearly him at his best. Like, this is why he's been in the league for whatever 8-9 years now. But we've seen them starting double bigs twice now, and I think the question of like who is the power forward here? Like, is he a legitimate candidate to start now? And after these performances, I think the answer is like yes. Now, is that the direction they're going to go? That remains to be seen. We'll see. I think we'll get a hint of that once the full roster is in that, in uniform, whether it's Sunday night or Wednesday night. I imagine we're going to get a dry run at some point. But without a doubt, like he's playing. He's probably been your best big through 2 preseason games right now. And
I would take the probably out of that.
I mean, yeah,
he's just been their best big.
Yeah, Garza's been solid, but Boucher both ends of the floor, without a doubt, and Minot is not a big. But he Boucher was just so much better than Nemi tonight, and it's just one game, but like that's the consistency of comparing those guys. Of course, clear. I don't know. Like, is there a world, Jay, where you like? Can they start Boucher at the 5? Like, I don't think they're clearly not leaning towards thinking about that with how they're playing lineups at all. But I wonder if that's something that clearly lineups can be played with that over the course of the game. And if that, if he plays well enough and Nemi's is not earning that spot, then you wonder what direction that eventually is going to go in.
Yeah. And during the preseason opener, he did play some 5, and that was probably the best they played in the entire preseason opener. Was with him at 5 next to Ugo, Baylor Shireman, Josh Minot, and I believe it was Derek White. So he can play 5. He has played 5. I don't know if that's the way they want to go, but I certainly think that starting Sam Hauser at the 4 when they're fully healthy is a possibility. And we'll see how that goes. But right now, like Minot and Boucher look like they're really giving the energy and and just making just the hustle plays that this team is going to need, the way that they want to play with the energy, the pace on both ends. You're going to need guys who are getting deflections. You're going to need guys who get in the passing lanes, who take charges, who get out and run. And those guys right now are doing that as well as anybody on the roster. Minot, another really good game from him. He made 1 of 3 threes, so not a great shooting performance, but at least he made one tonight.
Right. You'll take one. You just need 1 out of 3. If you can do that, then that's all you need.
And it's just the defense, and just kind of has a knack for making plays. Like that's just how I describe it. It's super athletic, very long, but just has a knack for being impactful, filling up the stat sheet. He's gotten out in transition. He's picking up full court. He's been a nuisance on defense, but also smart on offense. The Josh Minot experience so far has been very pleasant, and I would guess that he's in line for a pretty significant role when the season begins. I still think like there's probably not a ton of separation on the wing, but Minot might be creating that separation. He started tonight. He has done nothing but make plays on both ends, but defensively is where I think he'll make the biggest difference. And he just covers up a lot of ground. He helps well. He is constantly getting deflections and steals and blocks, and they just need that. Like when you play some of these smaller lineups that they're going to have with Peyton Pritchard next to Derek White, or Peyton Pritchard next to Anfernee Simons, or Anfernee Simons next to Derek White, or whatever, you're going to need length to help cover that up. And I just think Minot's the type of guy they could have used a guy like him the last couple of years. And they did use O'Shea Brissett, who was sort of similar, but Brissett didn't have the knack for defensive playmaking, certainly that Minot has shown over these first couple of games. And I think it's just a super promising start from Minot, that maybe he just needed a change of scenery, an opportunity to play, and the defensive instincts and kind of all around instincts will allow him to, be an impact guy, even if he's not a good shooter, which probably won't be a good shooter right away.
Right. Seems like he's playing free, and like that, like I said, just knowing that that's there for him here, where he hasn't had that opportunity, in 3 years in Minnesota. But I feel like Minot, Boucher, like they're like, like chaos agents here. It's just like to play this brand of basketball, you said, like, you just need these type of guys to make it work. And you can see when the Celtics don't have these type of guys in the game, like you already see the drop off in these preseason games. And now obviously things can change a lot when, you're missing 3 rotation players on each of these nights. So again, curious to see how it all looks all together. But for now.
And it could look totally different too when the other team has its rotation players.
All fair.
Toronto played. I mean, some of those guys are.
Yeah, it's their bench. They played their bench tonight.
NBA level players, but they didn't have any of their expected starters. So it was, and that's the second straight night that the Celtics have pretty much played like the B or C team, the JV squad. Let's call them the JV squad. So, maybe it looks different when Minot's playing against top tier guys, and maybe his defense doesn't flash quite as much. Maybe he has more troubles on offense, but so far he just makes plays, man. It's just he's impacted winning and contributed to the identity that they want to play with. And that's really important to me, is like, you want to play with energy, you want to play with pace, you want to push the ball up the court and create turnovers. It's like, then you got to play the guys who do that. And Minot, Boucher, those guys have done a really good job so far. Peyton Pritchard was just kind of Peyton Pritchard. I think the 7 for 17 shooting performance was kind of a little misleading. He missed a couple of like cheap layups that he almost always makes, and otherwise it would have been a pretty efficient performance. He had one move that was so sweet where it was like the behind the back split a defender and beat his man and went to the other side of the basket. So nice. I just think
At the close, that was like that closed the quarter out. I feel like one of those, like that move, or
yeah, I think it was late in the first half.
yeah,
I could be wrong. But yeah, I just thought the Raptors, for as little, NBA rotation talent as they played, those guys can really get after you, and they can really guard, and they can really get up in you. And so it was more of a challenge for the guards, and obviously the 29 turnovers that Celtics had is indicative of that. But I didn't think any of it bothered Pritchard. I thought, I'm of the belief that he's set up to have a pretty big statistical year, and that he's ready to take another jump forward. And nothing that he did tonight, pushed me off that. Not that would happen. It's a preseason game. I'm not going to totally overreact to everything unless your name's Josh Minot. Then I'll probably overreact. But yeah, I just thought, and then when he was out, and when he and Simons were out, it was just the fall off was crazy. They had that fourth quarter was just like, it's rare you see a disaster like that.
They couldn't dribble it up the court for like 6 straight possessions.
Could not dribble it up.
They were up 13 with 3 minutes left, and they lost in regulation.
Could not dribble it up the court. It was, yeah, it was pretty bad. It was really bad. And again, a lot of the guys the Raptors have out there are on their roster because they guard, and because they get after people, and because they get into people. And so for the Celtics, who, they don't have a ton of point guards. They didn't play Max Shulga until like the final 2 minutes after Shireman got fouled out. Yeah, I think he might have been getting yanked even before they realized he fouled out.
I didn't even realize he fouled out. I just assumed he was getting yanked regardless.
Yeah, because the TV cut to Joe, and it looked like he was kind of like, get him out of there.
Yeah,
Get him out of there. And then they sent somebody to score. Say, but Shireman was fouled. He had just committed an offensive foul, and was just kind of like losing full control of the game. I don't think the Baylor Shireman at point guard experiment went very well tonight. But that's okay. Like, he doesn't have to be a point guard. That's totally fine. He can do other things. He's been pretty good defensively so far in preseason. But the point guard thing did not work with serious pressure on him. And then it was like everybody else, like, they threw it into Amari Williams, and he just went out of bounds.
Everyone took a turn. I feel like everyone in that lineup, like, I mean, the worst was RJ Lewis. Like,
RJ Lewis was just
holding for one at the end of the game, just like
chucked it out of bounds. Yeah,
like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? And then the dribble handoff turnover with like 30 minutes after an ATO. Yeah, I think everyone had their turn in that lineup. Like Jalen Bridges, Kendall Brown. I hope that they all don't have, pink slips in their locker after this game. But that was they were going to meet anyway. But that looked like JV freshman basketball against full court press.
Joe told reporters that it was good for them, and that you need stuff like that. It's probably true. But man, was it ugly tonight. The one I wrote down in my notes, one thing that bugged me. Amari Williams always brings the ball back down when he catches it. Like, every time he brings it down. He ended up drawing a foul, but he got a pass to him on around the left block in sort of a lunge position where he could have just just gone up and finished. And instead, he brought it down and allowed himself to be guarded, and just feels like a bad habit. And they said on the broadcast that Joe was coaching him after that moment. Maybe he was telling him same thing I had noticed. I don't know, but he's got to kick himself of that habit because he's so big and he can really pass. And if he can just become a finisher, then there's a lot there to like. And but he's gotta do a better job finishing down low. And yeah, he was part
Kind of
of,
reminds me like what Perk I feel like that was like one of his worst habits, was bringing that ball down in his heyday. But yeah, like to your point, like Brad Stevens has already mentioned, I think, I don't know if it was media day, but like they want Amari to be more aggressive. And part of being aggressive there, I imagine, is just like, yeah, don't bring the ball down so you can finish it right away. But yeah, it was not a shining moment for roster spots 11 through 20 tonight. But I do think the good far outweighs the bad from this game on the whole. From just like, I mean, the guys you care about are like Minot and Boucher. I know he's a 1-year flyer, but like if he fits in well here, that's a big deal. Like that's a guy that you would want to be around for more than this year if he's that good of a fit. And Simons didn't play well and he still got to 18 points. I feel like, so that's like,
and you look
at good things.
You look at the main guys, not the main Celtics guys, but the key players or the guys you'd want to see. Josh Minot plus 15, Chris Boucher plus 22, Peyton Pritchard plus 8, Luka Garza plus 5. Like a lot of these guys were significant pluses. Simons was a plus 1. Nemi was a minus 3.
Nemi, what was your take on Nemi's night?
One of the most frustrating things Nemi does is that he cannot stop offensive fouling. He is constantly committing moving screen calls and wasting possessions. It almost reminded me of like there was this period, maybe not the whole time Grant Williams played for the Celtics, but there were stretches when he would just offensive foul. And it would just be moving screens. You waste a possession, you stop chances. And Nemi has that habit, and he's got to kick it. Yeah. You just cannot keep giving possessions away. He had 5 turnovers. Nemi had 5 turnovers. I don't know how many of those were moving screens. He had at least a couple.
Gotta be 2. And a couple of them were just so blatant too. Like 2-hand shove. Like where we're just kind of like coming off it. Like you can't be. It's how you get a target on your back for this stuff in a game like this. But the other notable thing too, Jay, like when they had, I feel like in the first half of this game, when it was before the Celtics kind of broke things open, the second quarter, like we got the vaunted line changes that Joe Mazzulla denied were ever going to happen.
There were some line changes. I thought part of it was just he was pissed they weren't rebounding though.
Yeah, I think that was it. Did not think of it. I think that's 100% what it was. But I guess the other discouraging part of that is like Nemi was the guy coming off the floor in those situations. It's like he was part of the problem as opposed to the solution. And that, like, I mean, he had 5 rebounds in this game in 17 minutes, 3 offensive, but like he needs to be, if he's going to start for this team, he needs to be like doing a hell of a job on defensive glass if they're going to be starting Hauser and Jaylen Brown at forward alongside him. And so this is a game where like Boucher and Minot, like those guys were like the more active guys on the glass than Nemi, and we're playing with more energy all night. And so that's something where I think Nemi needs. That's where I think Joe's going to be trying to pull it out of him more. Like they need more of that out of him for these lamps to work.
Yeah, and yeah, it was a pretty disappointing game from Nemi, just because it's like all the same mistakes that held him back in the past. Like he's the guy now, or he has a chance to be the guy.
We think he's the guy.
He has a chance to be the guy. And before it was like, oh, he's 4th string. Like, who cares if he makes a couple of mistakes? He comes in and for the most part he's productive. You can at least get away with playing him. That's cool. you can't get away with that when you're a starting center in the league. You have to be more consistent, more solid than that. And if he can't get rid of that stuff, then Joe could feel compelled to go in another direction at some point. And I'm not like sitting here writing Nemi off. I still think Nemi is probably going to play a lot of minutes. Nemi is probably going to have a pretty big statistical year. Nemi will probably be more solid than he was last year, but the moving screen stuff and the defensive rebounding stuff, like seems pretty clear from the way the first 2 preseason games have gone that Joe is very focused on defensive rebounding, and he knows that that's a possible
He should be.
weakness, and seems to be like really drilling it into the guys that they need to rebound like hell. Because after losing what they did in the front court, after having Jason Tatum get injured, after losing as much defense as they did, because defense is part of the defensive rebounding too. Like if you get beat off the bounce, like that's one way to give up an offensive rebound. So yeah, like that's a potential trouble area, and he seems aware of it. He seems to be focused on it. And at the other end, like their offensive rebounding could be a real strength. I think they have a number of offensive rebounders now. Josh Minot can really go get that thing off the offensive glass. Luka Garza is a gifted offensive rebounder, a dogged offensive rebounder. Hugo Gonzalez, I don't know how much he'll play, but that dude goes after it on the offensive glass. So they have a lot of guys. I would throw Nemi into that, Boucher, like all these guys can go get offensive rebounds. And I think that could be a huge strength of this team. If you're playing Nemi, if you're playing Garza, if you're playing Minot, those are guys that can really make a difference in that way. But Boucher, so I think that they were middle of the pack last year in offensive rebound. I think there's a chance they go way up in that stat because Kristaps never offensive rebound. Like
Al did not.
Al did a tiny bit more the last couple of years after they emphasized it a little bit more, but that wasn't his. Certainly was out at the 3-point arc and not doing a lot of that. So as much a trouble area as defensive rebound could be, offensive rebound, I think, and the first 2 games have sort of been a sign of this. I think could be pretty good. Luka Garza cracked me up, man, because he grabbed, I think Anfernee Simons missed a layup, and Garza grabbed the rebound and finished a reverse, and he had this like snarl on his face going back down. He was like I was dying. It was like I don't even know how to describe it. But yeah, he was snarling the whole way back down. Shit, if you grab offensive rebounds, finish it, go ahead and snarl, my man. Go ahead and snarl. I think offensively, he's had a really good start to the preseason. He's drawn a ton of free throws, gotten on the offensive glass, had double-digit points in each game so far, and he just seems to be a good fit offensively. Defensively, there are moments when you're like, he can't really move as well as you'd like him to move. Can't really recover as well as you'd like him to recover. Can't really rotate as well as you'd like him to rotate. But he works hard. Seems to be in the right spot a lot. Sort of has some like Ennis Cantor to him, and that like he seems to have like just really strong hands and a knowledge of like just how to work angles down low to get offensive rebounds and finish him too after he gets them. So pretty impressive start, even though people won't love to hear Ennis's name brought up.
Right. Let's see. I haven't thought of him in a while. Yeah, he's probably in your top 3 of positive developments, like behind Boucher and Minot, but still very much in the mix of that. And it is like just for that offensive rebound day, it makes you wonder how much they will go double big this year if they can lean on that. If they just become a monster in that area, of going with Garza, Boucher off the bench, or even like if you have Minot at the 4, that still is a huge edge there. So that's something where that scenario they will be able to lean on offensively potentially and have these guys crashing right off the glass while Simons or Pritchard or White, whoever's getting the threes up, or Hauser from other areas of the floor.
And it seems very likely, just from 2 preseason games, but it seems very likely just from seeing it in action that they'll be able to kind of switch play styles by lineup choices.
Yeah.
Like very much so. You can throw, Simons, Pritchard, White, Hauser, like probably not that small, but you can throw like really good shooting lineup. You can throw, a big bruising lineup. You can throw Boucher out there at 4, get more energetic, and Minot next to him and get more energetic. I just think they'll be able to toggle between styles, but part of what made them so great was like they didn't have to toggle between styles because everybody could do everything. And now that's just not the case. Like you're going to have to choose between shooting and defense. You're going to have to choose between rebounding and
speed
and offense. Yeah, and I think like it looks great when Chris Boucher is at 4 and Nemi's at 5 or whatever, and like it looks great when Minot's at 3 next to those guys right now in preseason. But I think when you get to real games, when everybody's being scouted and you're going through a real game plan on defense, it's going to be tough to score with some of those lineups. So I'm very interested to see how everything kind of shakes out once they're playing against the top players, once they're playing against, real game plans. Because like I wonder if they can get away with having some of those lineups just without as much shooting, without as much precision offensively. And I don't want to say IQ because Josh Minot seems like a very smart player, but like precision feels like a better word. He's not the most precise offensive player, and neither is Chris Boucher, but they've been damn good so far. Still a lot to learn about this team. Another preseason game on Sunday, the preseason finale on Wednesday after that. We'll be here to break it all down. Still potable, baby. If you don't subscribe to our Patreon. It's patreon.com/stillpotable. If you do subscribe, thank you very much. We appreciate everybody, every listener, every subscriber, every person, really. I still can't believe they lost in that fashion. Just an outrageous loss.
26 7-point lead, but that's
God bless Mobo. God bless Mobo. He made sure there was no overtime. How many turnovers would the Celtics have had if there was overtime? 35?
Easy. What's the NBA record for turnovers in a game?
That's a good question.
They'll be broaching it.
That's a good question.
But we'll see.
We'll see you guys later. We love you. Take care.
Still bottle, still bottle. The Boston still bottle, still bottle. Oh.